And welcome into another edition of the Yinziders podcast. I'm Jenna Harner from WPXI. He is Steelers beat writer for The Athletic, Mike DeFabo. New episodes of the Yinziders drop every Wednesday, so make sure you're subscribing and you are wherever you get your podcasts, and you're getting all of our episodes. Mike, little quiet week for the Steelers.
Well, they started.
You know what? That's true.
Their off-season workouts. They're basically just in the building lifting weights, and you're getting your pictures, your much-needed content of TJ Watt lifting weights, things like that.
Cam Hayward, what was his sweatshirt? It said something like something King.
You do this to me all the time. You ask me questions.
Well, you were talking about
it said something like keep talking. I think it said keep
talking, and then or still talking.
Still talking.
And then it was the tall TAL part of talking was scribbled out, so it said still King. That's what it was.
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't get it at all.
You didn't get it?
I didn't get it
at
all. I don't know. Maybe it was a podcasting, like a podcasting sweatshirt. It's definitely not a podcasting sweatshirt.
No, hold on. No, I was going to make the joke of Joey Porter Sr. doing what we know and love of some fun things that Pittsburgh fans and Pittsburgh people do, where we add S's onto the end of words.
No, he has an event at Tequila Cowboys.
Cowboys, that's right. Tequila Cowboys.
Yeah, like how my dad calls it Best Buys. Same thing. I'll meet you down Tequila Cowboys.
Down Tequila Cowboys. That for people that don't know, Cam Hayward during the night one of the draft, right? Night one of the draft at Tequila Cowboys?
I don't know. You keep doing this. I don't know.
I'm assuming you know.
You keep asking me questions I don't know the answers to.
Okay, well then I won't ask.
Just bring on Stephen Nesbitt. Introduce him.
Stephen Nesbitt, we have an awesome interview with him. We're talking some Pirates baseball. We have to lead into
that. There we go.
We're talking Bucco's baseball.
Yes. So Stephen Nesbitt used to cover the Pirates for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. We were colleagues, maybe there, or maybe he went to the Athletic before I went to the Post-Gazette. We did play on a co-ed softball team together.
Yep.
And he could attest to the fact that I do hit dingers. And he had actually a really good arm, believe it or not.
What position did he play?
He was a middle infielder, shortstop.
Oh, nice. Konnor Griffin of your co-ed softball team.
PSL.
Of your co-ed softball team. Before we do go to the interview too, I am loving the hoist the cone. It's very, very Pittsburgh to me. As someone who's not from here, it's a very Pittsburgh thing. So for those who don't know, which you should know this because it's entertaining as all heck, Fanatics made a Pirates shirt, and there was a picture of it circling around on social media, and the shirt said it had the Pirates logo on it, and then it said, hoist the cone, in text, like if it was the Pirates logo, and then the text was like right there under it. And it was clearly a misprint. Like, I'm assuming it was supposed to say hoist the colors. The Pirates used that video clip from Pirates of the Caribbean throughout games. So that makes a lot of sense. The people of Pittsburgh have bought into hoisting the cone to a whole nother level.
I think that there's not a lot to like and cheer for and get excited about for the Pirates. You need something like completely off the wall and nonsensical. It's honestly like the Pittsburgh Pirates version of the 6-7 thing, where like there is a backstory to it, but the backstory doesn't even matter. It's just that it's something so silly and goofy and off the wall, and it means nothing, but it means something. And now people have bought in. It does remind me of there's always like something wild or wacky that teams do when they have an extra base hit. So for a while during the Andrew McCutchen days, it was Zoltan, because they watched that movie on like a team bus, and then they became obsessed with that. And that was like a 3-year thing, I think, that they did that. This is like the next iteration of that. It's the closest thing that I can compare it to.
They have a traffic cone in the dugout that has a Pirates little decal on it. Fans can bring traffic cones. You are like, that is not a prohibited item from the ballpark.
I'm waiting to see somebody bonging a beer out of a traffic cone after a home run.
You know what's going to happen? They're going to make some sort of traffic cone, parking cone shaped beverage holders.
There's really incredible marketing opportunities. A bobblehead with just a traffic cone. Traffic cone giveaway. That would actually be a hilarious giveaway. Because it's probably pretty cheap. You could get those used from PennDOT when they're done with all their construction ahead of the draft.
After all the draft stuff, they just take the construction.
These are free ideas for the Pirates. Yeah.
There's an
Trade in your Bucco brick for a traffic cone. I don't know.
There's an ice cream shop in Latrobe, the Cone Zone.
The Cone Zone.
That is doing, this is free advertisement for them. Cone Zone, if you want to sponsor us, please reach out. We'd love to do a little collab here. They're doing a special, like, hoist the Cone Zone Sunday.
Wow.
It looked really good. I want to try that.
I did see it Page's Dairy Mart too. I think that
I mean, you have
they
to.
put like a little traffic cone. Did you see that one?
No, I didn't see
yeah,
that one, but you're capitalizing there. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
But they also are free to sponsor us if they want. Well, I'll just take like one ice cream cone.
Just one?
Yeah.
The entire summer, just one?
Medium chocolate peanut butter with peanut butter. What are they called?
The dip?
No, not the dip.
The crunchies.
Peanut butter crunchies.
Peanut butter crunchies.
Yeah,
I'm going
please.
Nancy B.
We'll do
Sunday.
that. Yeah, Page's Dairy Mart. Go there all the time, and then I just need. That's all I want for compensation. Just one cone.
Just one cone. They have an ice cream truck now.
Wow.
Fun facts.
Okay.
But we're gonna get to this interview with Stephen Nesbitt. Don't go anywhere. This is the Yinziders podcast. And welcome back to the Yinziders podcast. I'm Jenna Harner. He's Mike DeFabo, and we are now joined by Stephen Nesbitt, senior MLB writer for The Athletic. Stephen, we're so happy and thrilled to have you here. Very slow time right now for the Steelers, so naturally, there's Bucco Fever happening in Pittsburgh, so we had to bring you on to talk about the Pirates. I mean, you can feel it a little bit. We're like 4 series in, not even through 4 or 5 series. Math is hard. And the people of Pittsburgh, they have it already.
There's Bucco Fever for sure. I was just in town. I don't live there anymore. For those who missed that, I moved in 2022 to north of Boston, and we were kind of ready last week where we didn't have any inside information. I was just like, if they don't call them up for the home opener, I don't know what they're doing. And so I got it, planned with my wife that, hey, I'm going to jet out of here on Thursday, get back Saturday, still do Easter, if this happens. And it happened just like that. We very short notice, but got to Pittsburgh and had a lovely time, 80-something degrees, as Jenna knew. She was there at the ballpark for the home opener. And it was cool to see, legitimately cool to see. As someone who is sort of like panned out and sees like the whole world of baseball more frequently, if the Pirates are great, if the Pirates are terrible, it does not matter to me. Like when I was on the beat, it didn't really matter to me because I grew up in Michigan. I don't have my heart is not tied to the Pirates, and the job doesn't really make you like fall in love with the team. If you don't know, like that's just not really how beat writing works. More than anything, you get frustrated with the team because they won't give you access to this or that. And so but if a team wins and you're on the beat, it means you go to the playoffs. It means you cover big games. It means big players are coming through. So it's always more interesting if they're good. But seeing it from the national perspective, it is fun and interesting to see the Pirates relevant, and they have not been relevant for a while. And so it was good to see the ballpark packed. It was good to see a couple true household names in their lineup, or in their, I guess, on the roster for the opening day introductions. Paul Skenes, a big pop from the crowd, and then Konnor Griffin, the kid, gets the biggest one yet. So it was really neat event to be at, and we'll just see how long they can sustain it, because last time I was in Pittsburgh for baseball was a year and a half ago at the trade deadline, where they picked up, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa and the guy from the Marlins I'm blanking on right now, but like they had kind of taken an easy road at the trade deadline to say like, we kind of made the team better, and they just truly didn't. And like there was a moment there where it felt like this team could be good. Paul Skenes was here and he was perfect, and they just didn't take advantage of it. So now it's like, okay, that's back, and it looks much more sustainable this time.
Right. And that's what we mostly want to talk to you about. Now, Jenna did not do a great job of introducing you. So you're a national writer for The Athletic, but you also used to cover the Pirates on a daily basis as a beat writer. So you have that perspective of someone who's seen the ins and outs of the Pirates. You know what they're about. Did you cover them when they actually made it to the couple wild card games? Were you there for the infamous Cueto game? That one, were you on the beat at that point?
I was not on the beat yet. So I got the job in Pittsburgh after interning there. So I interned in 2012 summer. I got the job summer of 2013. Covered West Virginia football and Duquesne basketball, the Dana Holgerson, Jim Ferry combination that very few remember. And then Jen Menendez moved off the Pirates beat to the Penguins beat. I got her spot on the Pirates beat alongside Bill Brink. And so I got to cover the Pirates starting the first day I covered them was the 2014 wildcard game. And that was the day Madison Bumgarner shut them down. So that was really a cool moment to arrive. I knew so little about the organization. I had so much to learn, but that's sort of the drinking from the fire hose moment. And so that was the start of it. And then you head into 2015, which was sort of their high water mark. They end up winning 98 games, and they had so many veterans across the board there. They held on to Francisco Liriano. They had AJ Burnett for one last run. That was Neil Walker's last season before they traded him. Andrew McCutcheon was still really, really good. Starling Marte coming into his prime. So that was the first year I covered them, and they once again lost in the wild card game. And then
so they're kind of trying to create that, like, best case scenario, they can get back to the wild card so they can lose it and break everyone in Pittsburgh's heart yet again. But let's go back to the guy Konnor Griffin to start out. So now, calling up maybe the top prospect in baseball is really exciting. It's awesome. A 19-year-old who looks like he has an incredibly bright future ahead of him. But to me, the more exciting thing would be if they're able to actually sign him to a contract, because I think anyone who's followed the Pittsburgh Pirates has seen the familiar cycle. They have this great draft pick, number 1, number 2, whatever, early draft pick because the team is so bad. This guy arrives in major leagues with all kinds of fanfare, but then almost from the minute that he makes his debut, it's like there's an expiration date that eventually he's going to play for the New York Yankees. And so for me, like, the bigger thing would be not, okay, this was a feel-good moment where he hit a double on his first at-bat, but can they get this contract done, and can they actually, keep this guy for any length of time? What do you know about where things are headed with the contract, and what would it mean if they're able to actually get it done and sign him to some type of long-term extension?
Yeah. So what I know is not a whole lot more than the public. I know that the Pirates had talked to his camp throughout spring training. They were trying to get something done. They didn't get something done. But Buster Olney at ESPN has reported that they're deep in discussions. He then reported the day before the debut, I think it's April 2nd, that there was an agreement in place or working to finalize, what was it, like 9 years, 140 or something like that. And then after that, what I've actually reported is just that we have sources saying that they've been engaged in conversation and they are making progress. And so, we asked I asked Bob Nutting about this, and he basically just said, what's the simplest way I can, in the past, we have looked for guys who are high character and high, caliber players, and would love to, sign like guys like that to an extension. Guys like Brian Reynolds, guys like Mitch Kelly. He didn't mention Brian Hayes for some reason, and then he said Konnor Griffin, is that type of player. So he's just saying, sure, we'd love to sign a guy like that. And Konnor Griffin said, all I'm saying is that I'd like to be in Pittsburgh a long time or something like that. So the indications I'm getting is when they're all saying the same thing, they're saying very specific non-answers, there's a reason for that. For the only true explanation I have for why are we waiting is that they had to at least wait till after his debut if they wanted to maintain eligibility for a PPI pick, a prospect promotion incentive pick. But now that that's done, I don't know if I want to put a tinfoil hat on for a second. They might be spooked by the report being out there that, Buster could be totally right about the number. I don't know. I have not heard. No one's confirmed for me. If he's right and they announce the day after the debut, oh yeah, 9 and 140, then maybe the league or other front offices say listen, they clearly had agreed before his debut. So I don't know, maybe that's why they just want to get more distance and say, okay, it's 2 weeks later, or it's a week and a half later. Clearly we didn't come to an agreement. So I don't know. I think it's something that we've been asking around about is And so far, I just haven't gotten any indication that like other teams are mad about this or anything like that. It's I just don't think people are gonna get that mad about like a pick, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what would it mean if they're able to get this done and like
Ooh, buddy.
what's a
Yeah.
is this kind of a franchise altering moment? Am I can I sit here as a born and raised Pittsburgh guy and be like, this is a new era of Pittsburgh Pirates. They're going to start spending. Next, Paul Skenes is going to get his big contract extension, and the Pirates are going to function like a normal team? Or is this going to break baseball? And now when the Pirates get a top pick, are they going to sign them to these big long deals to keep the players that they're able to draft early because they have these early draft picks? Like, what's going to happen? What's the ripple effect if they get it done?
So while giving credit to the Pirates if they get this done for forking over 140 million plus, this doesn't change anything. This doesn't change anything about the way that they operate. This is just this is just good business. So this is just okay. So this is not the first time they extended somebody, right? They extended Andrew McCutchen, they extended Starling Marte, Gregory Polanco, Brian Reynolds a little bit on the older side, Mitch Keller on the older side, Brian Hayes. So they've done it, and the numbers keep getting bigger, in large part because the numbers across baseball keep getting bigger. So like for a while, their largest free agent or their largest like extension was I think the Kutch deal or maybe Jason Kendall or something like that. Like not a big number, somewhere in like the 60s. And then to sign Keller and Reynolds, you're gonna have to get up toward 100. And so they're at 106.75 is their record deal. That's really not much considering the whole landscape of baseball. And so if you want to sign Konnor Griffin and you're going to do 9 years, naturally that's going to be a big number. And so the closest comp we have is Roman Anthony, who came up last year and signed I think it was 8 years. Someone help me out.
We're football guys
years.
here.
So
Jenna's a football guy. She does stuff.
Oh yeah, you don't know anything about guaranteed money. Yeah.
I don't know anything about, because here's my soapbox quickly. Not only have the Pirates made me disinterested in the Pirates, they've made me disinterested in baseball in general, which I love, because there's no reason to pay attention to these kind of things that you're talking about because they never pertain to the Pirates. But go ahead, keep going.
Okay. So I'll put it this way to the average fan who might be paying attention to this. Generally, people look at free agency as an inefficient place to spend money. You are going to be spending for past performance. You're going to be paying for somebody's 30s. You're going to be overpaying for what you're likely to get. Now, you might get 2 really good years. Like if we're talking about you signed one of the top guys, you might get a couple really good years, and you're hoping that on the balance, the back end of that contract, as ugly as it is to have Miguel Cabrera playing at 39, and he's terrible and eating up 30 million. He was so good on the front end of the contract that it was actually worth it. And you made this many playoff runs, and maybe you won a World Series, whatever. So there are a lot of ways for it to work out to make that inefficient spending. Extensions are not inefficient spending. They're extremely efficient. If you look back a decade ago, Andrew McCutchen way outplayed his contract. Starling Marte also outplayed his value of his contract. Gregory Polanco did not. On the balance, those 3 guys, those extensions worked out for the Pirates. And so if you look now, Reynolds probably hasn't. Keller's probably had. I mean, I think he's probably matching the value for a number 3 starting pitcher.
Yeah.
And then Brian Hayes is just a weird one. He's valuable, but it's from a defensive standpoint, and they didn't have any offense, so like needed something. And so this one, there are basically just a lot of ways for this to go well. Now, if it goes poorly, then yeah, you're going to end up paying him some really good money at the back end of the deal. But you also they have club options in there. You get to decide how like year by year if you're going to be reportedly club options. If you get to that part of the contract and it's going to be what, 30 million a year or something, where it's a big number, especially for the Pirates, they've never gone close to that number, then they get to pick year by year. Are we paying this, or are you just going to, buy out the contract? So with how athletic he is, everybody across baseball thinks he's going to figure it out. And so we're in the stage right now that he's going to struggle. He's for sure going to struggle hitting. But the Pirates believe, and many across the game believe, that he's going to be good enough defensively and have enough speed and get on, provide enough power, just enough at bat that he's going to be a plus player. And could we say that so assuredly about Nick Gonzalez or Jared Triolo at shortstop? Not really. So they don't have better options is a really clutch part of this. If they had let's say they had Jordy Mercer, to go back to the same age, same era. If you had Jordy Mercer on this roster, then you don't need to rush the kid up, right? You give him some time. But they don't have a better option, and so let him struggle up here. And I would be very cautious about sending him down because he's struggling. Like the closest maybe comparison we have to that would be Jackson Chourio with the Brewers. Debuted 2 years ago. They signed him to a big extension before he debuted, and he was pretty awful early on. And he was really young. He was 20 years old, a very young 20. And he figured things out. Now, he hasn't been like the star we've been expecting, but there's still a lot of time for them to get proven right with that contract. So that's basically what happened. Now, are they going to sign Skenes? No. Skenes a different ball game because he's a pitcher. Like, that pitchers don't sign extensions almost by a rule. The teams aren't willing to give you the amount of guaranteed money that you're looking for prior to free agency. And so Mitch Keller signed one, sure, but Mitch Keller was never guaranteed to be getting a big payday in free agency.
Right.
And so the Pirates are willing to give him a good chunk. Yeah, it was always relatively likely he'd accept that. But Skenes, I mean, it's every agent's dream to take that guy to free agency. And so could things get weird and change if he gets injured, or if he just has, seasons that look a lot more like his first start of the year than the rest, than what he's doing as we tape, then sure, things could change. But the likelihood that he ever signs an extension before free agency are almost nil. Like, we're looking at a guy who could sign a record deal for a pitcher when he gets to free agency.
You led perfectly into what I wanted to touch on with Konnor Griffin, because there were some questions. I think a lot of conversation during spring training was, hey, he really hasn't had a lot of he hasn't had any major league at bats. He doesn't have a ton of experience at shortstop, obviously playing in the bigs to that extent. Was it the right move to bring him up opening day, or should they have waited a little bit? I can see both sides to this here.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was the right move. If they need to succeed this year, like we've been saying. So the line that Bob Dunning gave me on the home opener was that this is a foot on the gas pedal year for us. And my argument would be, like, that should have been 2 years ago. That should have
Right.
been when Paul Skenes, you knew he was debuting and he had the potential to be one of the greatest pitchers in the game. Like, you lost. I'm never gonna let them pretend like they didn't lose 2 years of Cy Young caliber Paul Skenes. They should get ripped for that. They should 100% get ripped for the fact they were not ready to win when he was ready. That shouldn't be a surprise to you when you're calling the shots and when you're pulling the purse strings there. And so you can blame Ben Cherington if you think that he put the wrong people around him. You can blame the owner if you think that Ben Cherington didn't have the money to get good players around him, was making sort of moves on the margins.
Probably it. That's probably, yeah.
I would think if you're unable to make big money moves, you're going to end up making you're going to end up doing the Isaiah Konnor Falefa moves.
Right.
You end up getting a reliever when you actually need a third baseman, like that sort of thing. So I think, okay, when you're operating the way they do, you have to get cute. And when you have to get cute and you have to be bright. And so it's like, all right, it's gonna work out poorly a lot. And I'm not here to defend all of Cherington's moves. No, he's made some real stinkers too, but it's hard when you have to get things perfect and you have to get creative. And you decide you have to offload your third baseman's contract because he, it's become onerous, even though he's not making a lot. Keep Ryan Hayes. It's when you have to just trade your closer so that you have flexibility in the offseason. That's not good.
Right.
No GM is trying to do that type of stuff. So anyway, I think it was the right move because you have that urgency, and I, for one, appreciate them acting finally like they have urgency. I think they've acted for a couple of years like there isn't a sense of urgency, like they have expectations for themselves, like they expect to be getting better every year. They keep talking about building. They've done that ever since they changed regimes a few years ago. Talking about building. Well, listen, what are you building toward if Paul Skenes being ready isn't your moment?
Right.
And so they had trade deadlines passed, they had off seasons passed, and they didn't do anything. And this offseason, they clearly were trying something. And you can criticize them for not landing the plane on these free agents. It does take two to tango. You need a guy. It seems like the one they were most frustrated with is Jorge Polanco, who goes to the Mets. and the Mets give him just a lot of money for a guy who's like not that good, and that's just how free agency works. It's really inefficient. And so I think when you play for the first time in that tier of free agency, you're going to learn some lessons about how guys spend some stupid money, and they're not currently willing to do that. So if you're not willing to make upgrades in free agency, you're not going to make outlandish trades, or you don't have the veteran talent to, or you're not willing to trade the prospects for the veteran talent, then you have to make a big move, like bringing up your 19-year-old as soon as he might be ready. And that was Mike knows all about pre-writes. I wrote a pre-write for Konnor Griffin making the opening day roster, and he didn't. But
how was it?
It was good. All the pre-writes.
Right?
but my lead was ready or not. Here comes Konnor Griffin, because that's a true question. I don't know if he's ready. And now the lead is thrown to the dustbin of history. But he's gonna struggle, and that's okay. Mike Trout was not good as a rookie. Corbin Carroll, not crazy good as a rookie. Like, you look at all these guys, their stats, nothing like their prime selves as a rookie. And so just because if he bats 220 this year, that doesn't tell us anything about how he's going to be in 3 years when he's 22.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, well, like there's the good thing for them is they have a ton of time, and we're in an era where
I think when I was 19, I might have batted 220 in like Legion baseball.
let's go.
So
Yeah,
well,
I've seen those
actually,
moves.
you've seen me maybe at 22 years old in PSL softball, but I batted like 4 foot. The ball's a lot bigger, and they pitch
This
it a lot
kid's
slower.
wheels. It's got huge wheels. Yeah.
So hold on.
Yeah.
So you talked about how they had a noisier offseason, right? Like, this is a franchise that kind of had set the standard that they were going to do absolutely nothing of substance in free agency. And so, my question is, as a pessimistic Yinzer, admittedly, did they just lower expectations to the point that doing something made it seem like they were doing something? Or did they actually do enough to make themselves legitimate players that they might compete for a wild card? Or more?
I mean, maybe a little bit of both. Because I don't think you could honestly look at their offseason and be like, yes, they're a contender. They're going to beat the
Right.
Brewers. They're going to beat the Cubs. Like, no, I still wouldn't pick them to beat those two teams. They could. But I would say their margin for error is so slim. Like, Paul Skenes gets a oblique strain, this team is cooked, right? Like, and so I don't know. It's tough. Although Cade Horton for the Cubs just got injured, so it happens to everybody. But a team like the Cubs will have a veteran pitcher like Colin Ray to bring up behind him, and the Pirates, it's just there's so little veteran depth, especially on this team. So yes, after doing nothing for a couple off seasons and doing something did qualify as a splash. It's on its own, but I also think that like they very clearly identified what were their holes this offseason, which I have to imagine they do every offseason, but they just haven't addressed them before. Like, I'm like,
Right.
every Steelers offseason, right? 2 days later, your editor would be like, give me a stories on like what are let's a checklist, the priority list of holes to fill for the Steelers, and you could like rattle off 5 things they need.
You're like, find a corner opposite Joey Porter Jr., which they did. Get some defensive line depth, which they did.
Add to the
receiving core, which they did.
Think about thinking about a quarterback of the future someday.
Yeah, maybe at some point figure out if you might have a quarterback.
So I mean, pundits and writers like us, we would do that for every team we cover. So I'm sure people have done it for the Pirates. Go back and look 2 years ago. What do the Pirates need? I'm sure they said bats. Last year, what do the Pirates need? I'm sure they said bats. We could always see they had something forming in the rotation. And then this offseason, it was the first time they were like, well, we definitely need, and they started saying out loud. Like, I wrote this at the winter meetings, was like, it's not actually like, not hard to read the tea leaves here. Like, Ben Charrington was kind of telegraphing it. He was like, we want more power, preferably left-handed. We want, if we trade a pitcher, we're gonna sign a pitcher. If we need arms for the bullpen, high leverage arms, and preferably at least one lefty. And so like they checked all those things off, and they weren't really trying to fool people. Where it got complicated for them is when they started being in on these free agents, and it's very okay. it's funny to watch the fan reaction when these like leaks come out, when the reports are made, because they're like, oh, the players want they want everybody to know they were in on Kyle Schwarber.
Right.
And I was like, do you know who looks the worst in this when you don't sign Kyle Schwarber? Like Ben Cherington and the Pirates look the worst. Like they don't want that stuff coming out. The fact that we find it out and we report it is not good for them. Just to be like, oh, the Pirates, like it's good for them when you hear, I mean, it's good for the reputation when you hear the Pirates might sign Schwarber. But I would say equal and opposite reaction when they don't sign him.
Right. They
You get
don't need an L in the off season. They have enough of those during the regular season.
And so
Right.
the fact that many reports were coming out that they were interested in, Eugenio Suarez, Jorge Polanco, Josh Naylor, Kyle Schwarber, like a bunch of these guys that would have fit their plan. There was, where there's smoke, there's often fire, and they were trying, but I think they remain a team that's not willing to give out a contract they think is bad.
They did go get, the bats, we can say it in that way. Brandon Lau, Ryan O'Hearn, Marcell Ozuna. Yeah, that just took me a second there. Ozuna obviously has not hit his stride, we'll say, quite yet with this team. But I think when you look at Lau and O'Hearn, I mean, they've been hitting well. They've been producing through these first handful plus of games here. It was really interesting, and I don't know if you've heard this conversation entirely, but there was so much conversation from like Don Kelly and from some of these younger players about the culture that these guys are bringing into this this clubhouse, because there aren't a lot of veterans in this clubhouse. There aren't a lot of winning veterans or just guys that have had success in this clubhouse. Does that really, from your perspective, do you think that's making an impact on this group? I mean, it seems like they're just having a ton of fun in general through the start of the season, but are the presence of, O'Hearn, Lau, and Ozuna, is that actually doing something more than just, hey, these guys have been here, done that before?
Yeah, I mean, I think it certainly is. They're good. They're good veteran players, and that's valuable for a team. Veterans are often like there's much more predictable what you're going to get from them from a results standpoint, but also
Yeah.
there's just an evenness to the clubhouse. They know how to lead in this situation. So the other day when Konnor Griffin comes up, reporters are asking Jake Mangum like, "What are you going to tell him? What advice do you have for him?" And he's like, "Honestly, if he asks me for advice, I'm going to tell him to go talk to Bilal. Like that's the better person for him to talk to." And he's right. Like you have a guy who's been there, who's played in the postseason, who has his identity as a player, and he's proven it in the majors, and he's just like secure in who he is. The other part of it is an interesting one. I've had conversation with different guys over the years who've signed these 1-year deals with the Pirates, because the Pirates, that would basically what they would do every offseason until they signed Ryan O'Hearn, is only 1-year deals for the last decade. And the impact, one guy told me, that I thought was really interesting was like the impact on that is maybe bigger than people would anticipate. Where if a guy gets signed to a 1-year deal, he's understanding this team is not investing in me for the future. This team is bringing me in for a bridge or a short term. And so you're not going to establish yourself as a real leader in the clubhouse, probably. If stuff starts to go south, you immediately start to think about, am I getting shipped out? Where am I about to go? Where am I moving my family? All this stuff. And you're not seeing yourself as someone who needs to, um, help um find apprentices on the team and lead guys and be like a real leader for the young guys. Sure, you'll be a professional, you'll be helpful, but like you're probably going to kind of stay in the shadows a little bit if you're only there for a short time. And I think it's a lot what they had in recent years. They brought back Tommy Pham and Adam Frazier, and they brought back Kutch for short term. His deal was different. Brought back a lot of these 1-year deals, and until you make a commitment on a multi-year deal to a veteran, I think you're giving a weird message to the guys you bring in. And so for them to be finally willing to bring in Ryan O'Hearn, has been a really good hitter, solid hitter, for many years. That I think is an important step for them as they move forward, because it tells Konnor Griffin, hey dude, you're gonna have that lefty in your lineup next year as well. And that's why I think it's important to start making some of these longer commitments to guys, because it's great to retain the homegrown talent, but you also have to find ways to identify the holes that you have in your lineup and in your pitching staff, and then like not just fill those with a stopgap measure, but like truly like hammer it home, fill it and be like, this is a guy who's going to help us make the postseason for the next 4 or 5 years.
I feel like we have to touch on Skenes at some point in this conversation, because obviously he's Paul Skenes. So For him, I mean, we've seen him already come in, and from the minute he threw his first pitch, basically, he just kind of set Major League Baseball on fire, and he was that guy that everyone expected him to be. What's next for him? Like, what's the next step? What more can he do at this level? And then beyond that, like, what would it take for the Pirates to actually win in his window? And what would be a realistic window for Paul Skenes to be a Pittsburgh Pirate?
So next step for him, I mean, the big step he took in last year was like demanding the ball, like wanting to stay deeper into games. The first year they have kid gloves, and he didn't like that, but I think he understood it. Second year, he really wanted to prove that he could throw deep in games. He talked about having a conversation with Randy Johnson his rookie year. He basically told him that, like, let them know you want to keep pitching. And in this era, it's scary for teams to let a guy keep pitching, right?
Yeah.
There's concern that as he tires, he's going to be, overworking and more prone to injury. So he has proven so far, crossing fingers for the sake of baseball, that he's durable, he's resilient, and he has not had any issues with injuries. And pardon me. That's going to be the key for him, is to show that you can take on this workload without getting hurt. And I think what's been really impressive to see is the way he's continued to evolve as a pitcher year to year, where, as you remember, his rookie year, he comes up, he's throwing like 100 miles an hour, and he's throwing the splinker, and everyone's talking about the splinker.
Right.
And then last year, you look, and he's like, oh, he's got like 7 pitches now. And then this year, he's leaning on stuff even differently, and the shape of this pitch is different. When you have like a 1.970 career ERA, you shouldn't be, you don't have to change, right? You can just like keep doing what you're doing until it stops working, and then change. But I do think he has the mindset of somebody who is going to keep evolving, going to keep tinkering, and that he expects is going to keep him a step ahead of the hitters. And so far, I think he's right. I mean, obviously, that first start of the year was really weird, but it also had much to do with the defense behind him. He is a guy who clearly thinks about the craft so much, studies it so much, and I think that's going to be important, especially as time passes and he loses a tick or two from his fastball. Does he have what Justin Verlander had, what Max Scherzer had, where he can go to different pitches and just be creative, be truly pitching on the mound as he sequences hitters and not just blow them away with a fastball and one devastating breaking ball?
I had to love the picture that he posted on his Instagram from the World Baseball Classic, where it was like when they were on their way to the championship game, and it's him and all the guys smiling, or maybe it was the game before. And I don't know if I've ever seen Paul Skenes smile the way that he did in that photo. Like, nothing makes this man happier than winning baseball. And that is something this city wants so bad, not only for in his window, but for this team and to accomplish. What's the best case scenario for this Pirates team this year? And you mentioned the margin for error is very, very, very slim. What has to go right for them to earn a wild card spot?
Yeah. Let me jump back to and answer Mike's question, because I realized I never answered the full question. The
So I was
window.
gonna- this is the problem. They always tell you, like, never ask 2 questions, because then you leave opportunity for them to not
Jenna,
answer.
I will answer yours.
How long will they have Paul Skenes? That's the question I actually have.
How long?
Okay, so like all right, so he's in his 3rd year of service, which means he has this year and then 3 years of arbitration. So, they could have him for 3 more years. Would be a real bummer if they have a lockout that kicks 1 year. Don't think about that. But
maybe he would play for our co-ed softball team in Pittsburgh.
Now
he loves baseball, softball.
It's true. Softball.
History would tell you the Pirates would trade him before that last year of one of the last 2 years of arbitration, right? That's Garrett Cole, that's Marte, that's McCutcheon, that's what they did with Neil Walker. That's just the way they operated it.
So you just said it went from 3 to 2 to there's a lockout, so that means this is his last year as a Pirate. Is that what you're telling me?
Enjoy.
Make everyone really depressed.
I think there's one more year.
But the but here is that, yeah, like his last year of arbitration will be stupid. Like, it'll be a record. I mean, like if he's this good, it'll be like 30 some million. What did Terry Scuba just get? 32, I think it was.
I think that was...
Like, it's gonna go north from there. So, like, will they pay a guy 35 million? Yes, you should. If your team is good and ready to win. So that's what's going to be the whole question of when they trade him is their team still winning? Like, we saw the Tigers this offseason. Let's just say it's the identical situation. It basically is. You have the best pitcher in your league entering last year of arbitration. Do you hold him for free agency, or do you trade him now for a king's ransom of prospects? And clearly the Tigers decided they didn't get a good enough offer, and they also couldn't punt. They just came off of an ALDS appearance, and so you can't give up now. And so they would have had to find a package that threaded the needle that got him still even better this year, and they couldn't find it. I think the Pirates are good chance of getting the same situation where even if he's awesome, the fact he's making $35 million, let's say, in his last year of arbitration, it'll take him out of the range of a couple teams that could be contenders that they don't want to pay that much, and then other teams just simply don't have the prospect capital to get the Pirates to agree to that trade. And so they're I'm sure there'll be a couple teams that will be in position to do that trade, but the Pirates may not like it, and they may just decide, we haven't won a World Series since 1979. We haven't even been to a World Series since then, and whatever the team looks like then, let's just imagine that it gets even better than this. This is our best chance to do it. We cannot trade our ace. So I could see them take him to free agency. Now, does it help them, their chances of keeping him longer? No, I don't think so. Does it help their reputation? I think it would. I think it would help if you didn't keep trading guys a year before the free agency. So that's their window. I do think does extend until he gets to free agency. So
you made me feel better.
That's that part. For Jenna, what's the ceiling on this team? I mean, I still think this team doesn't have enough offensively, because I think Konnor Griffin's going to struggle. I think he'll be a totally fine 8 hitter, which is where he is batting early on here. But I still think it's like when your best hitters are Ryan O'Hearn, who's good but has never been a great hitter, and Brandon Lau, who's a really, really streaky hitter, and then much of your lineup is really strikeout prone, you're going to hit slumps. You're going to hit big slumps with this team, and like times where fans are infuriated, not just with Marcell Ozuna, who does deserve the boos he's getting early. Who deserves what? I don't care. You can boo. He's hitting poorly enough that I'm not surprised by the boos.
There we go.
Particularly when it's the DH that you brought in so that Andrew McCutchen wouldn't come back, and McCutch has looked good so far in Texas, and neither of them are probably as good as the DH you should have. And so I don't think they're going to win the division. I think they could be in the wild card conversation. I think they could get there. I think even making the playoffs would be a win for this franchise. Like at all would be a win. And it's going to be hard given the talent in the NL East and in the NL West. So winning the division obviously is like the clearest path to do this, but get to the playoffs and anything can happen with the pitching staff they have, right? I mean, Jared Jones will be back by then. So
right.
They would be a fun team to get the playoffs, especially if Konnor Griffin's good by then, if O'Neal Cruz knows how to lay off horrible pitches and play a decent center field. Like they have enough talent on this team. You don't have to squint to see, to believe in it. I think you can believe in this team right now, but they still are. Just put them side by side with the Brewers and the Cubs, and you're just like, there's a lot of unproven here. And so I think the big test will be how close are they throughout the course of the summer, and then at the trade deadline, what are they willing to do? I asked Bob Nunning about that, and he kind of just said, I don't want to speculate on what we might do in the future, but I think we've shown that we have a willingness to go for it this year. So show it. They've had opportunities the last couple of deadlines. 2 years ago it was add, this last year is subtract, and they definitely did some work at the deadline last year, and we'll just see. They get to the deadline this year, they're probably going to need a closer again, right? I don't think Soto and Santana are really going to be like a high leverage playoff tandem. So do what you did in the offseason, identify the holes you have, and then work aggressively in July to fill them. You might have to overpay, but you won't have to overpay as much as you did in the offseason. The prices do come down. So I think that's it. They definitely have the look of a team that could be a playoff team. Just imagine, like in the recent years, the Marlins have been a fringe-ish playoff team. I think they're better than what the Marlins have been. They certainly have the top end talent now, and if there's an X factor that could get them there, it's Konnor Griffin. If he is if he is a 6-WAR player, this is a playoff team. If he is a defense only guy who really struggles at the bat, and we're talking about should they send him down to the course of the summer, which could totally happen, then yeah, they may just not have the bats to do it once again. And then you have to go in the offseason, you lose Brandon Lau, and you have to get really serious about okay, we got it. We got to get better at bat because they don't really have a lot of hitters coming in through the pipeline either. You got to get some established guys.
That crowd pop when he hit that double was, I mean, the loudest I've heard at PNC Park ever, but just like it was
since Jalapeno Hannah won. Our most recent. Are you a Jalapeno Hannah fan? Who's your favorite pierogi? Before we let you go?
I've never cared an iota about them. Sorry.
You never cared?
Never once.
Jalapeno Hannah has been my favorite pirate over the last 35 years. Kidding me?
Stephen, thank you so much for joining us and just all of the insight you provided. This was such a fun conversation, and I know a lot of people are really excited about just what the potential of this team can be this season, what they can look like, and hopefully they can do more than just bridge the gap till training camp starts. But let all of our listeners know where they can find you, where they can follow you, and any cool things you want to promote or tease coming up, you feel free to do that.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. You can find me on Twitter and Blue Sky, Stephen J. Nesbitt, and then find all my work at theathletic.com/MLB.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It was a thrill to get to talk some baseball here, and we will see you next week on the Yinziders.
Thanks, guys. Love the show. Big fan.